Inside an underwater cave in Wuming district, Guangxi, a group of more than 10 divers entered a small cramped space. After about 2 hours, they finished their dive one after another, but when they came back up, they realized one person was missing. Two diving instructors immediately went back down to search, but found nothing. They had no choice but to call the police for help. The next night, the missing diver was finally found deep inside the cave. The data from his dive computer revealed the terrifying experience he went through underwater. Hello everyone, I'm Shen Lian. Today we're looking into a diving accident that happened in May 2020 in China. Throughout the villages of Wuming district in Nanning, there are many natural sinkholes formed by groundwater erosion. These sinkholes often connect to underground rivers and cave systems. The one we're talking about today is located in Shanhu town. From the outside, the sinkhole looks very ordinary, but underwater it leads to a complex cave system. The main part is an open water area about 5 meters deep. Near the edges, there's an entrance leading into a multi-layer underwater cave. Around 8 meters deep, the tunnel splits into two. One is a horizontal chamber about 5 meters wide filled with silt and debris. The other goes downward into the main cave. The main cave has two entrances. The left one is slightly wider and allows divers to swim in horizontally. The right one is narrow and requires divers to enter head down, feet up. These two tunnels reconnect around 12 meters deep, where a small chamber opens up. Then a winding passage continues downward. At around 30 meters, the cave splits again. The right passage is narrow and not suitable for diving. The left passage slopes downward and reaches a small platform at around 44 meters. From there, the tunnel suddenly becomes very tight, just enough for one person to squeeze through. Below that, the passage widens again and slopes down to about 60 meters. Even deeper is still unknown, but strong water flow comes from there, suggesting it connects to an underground river. The cave is narrow, filled with silt, and bubbles from divers can easily knock loose sediment from the ceiling, quickly reducing visibility to near zero. Diving here requires caution, good buoyancy, a strong guideline, and enough gas supply. But some people underestimate the danger. The accident begins. On May 1st, 2020, around 11 a.m., a club from Nanning brought 14 divers to the sinkhole. Because COVID-19 prevented people from traveling abroad, many divers came to Guangxi during the holiday. The problem was, neither the divers nor the club really understood this newly discovered dive site. They all gathered in the 12-meter chamber. With so many people in such a small, silty area, visibility soon became awful. Among the group was a man surnamed Zhang from Guigang. At 11:21 a.m., he descended with the others to the chamber. But unlike them, he didn't stay. He continued down alone. It's unclear if he planned to explore with someone, but in the end, only he went down. 4 minutes after entry, Zhang stopped at 37.9 meters, maybe realizing that no one was behind him, so he turned back. He wasn't carrying a guideline reel. 2 minutes later, he was back at 12 meters. It's unclear if others were still there. Based on later evidence, they likely had already left. Zhang went back down again. Around 1 p.m., most divers surfaced, except Zhang. Two instructors went down to search but found nothing up to 36 meters. They returned, called the police, and requested rescue teams. Professional rescue efforts. At 5:05 p.m., the Red Cross rescue team arrived. Later, more rescue teams, including cave diving specialists, joined. The lead diver was Wei Min, a highly experienced technical diving and rescue instructor. Alongside him was another elite diver, Wei Bo, one of China's top technical divers. At 9:30 p.m., Wei Bo began the first deep search. Visibility had improved to about 3 meters. He searched several passages, including a narrow vertical tunnel requiring a head-down descent. But Zhang was nowhere to be found. The next day at noon, After refilling tanks, the search continued. On the fourth dive, they descended rapidly to 40 meters. The passage below was too narrow for two divers, so for safety reasons, Weibo went alone. At around 55 meters, he spotted a metallic reflection. As he got closer, he confirmed it was the missing diver, Zhang. Zhang was wedged between rock formations, his head at about 57.4 meters, his feet at 59 meters. His gear was intact, except his regulator's second stage was no longer in his mouth. After taking video evidence, Weibo secured the body and began the difficult ascent. Because Zhang's tank was empty, his BCD couldn't inflate, making the ascent extremely challenging in narrow spaces. At 40 meters, he met his dive partner again, and together they pushed and pulled the body upward through tight restrictions with almost zero visibility. After about 1.5 hours of ascent and decompression, they finally reached open water at 3:34 p.m. Later, after coordination with the police, the body was brought to the surface at 4:40 p.m. What the dive computer revealed. Zhang descended to 37.9 meters within 4 minutes. He went back to 12 meters, then down to 27, then back up again. He repeated this cycle many times within 12 minutes. Clearly he was lost. With poor visibility and no guideline, he couldn't find the exit and kept searching up and down. At minute 27 of his dive, he ran out of gas. He dropped from 45 meters to 58.4 meters, became trapped in a narrow crack, and died there. Based on his gas supply and activity time, he remained relatively calm. Otherwise, he would have run out much faster. But without a buddy, without a guideline, and with near zero visibility, he had no way out. Divers should never attempt caves without proper training, equipment, experience, and a reliable team. Organizers must take responsibility for safety checks, site inspections, and emergency planning. Not rely on past experience alone. Cave diving requires a team that knows each other well and is properly trained